I would say that my artwork could be seen as pure abstraction, or it could be seen as recognizable forms that feel very abstract. And then there's some of my work that is recognizable. It's not something we see every day, but it's forms that we can wrap our minds around, like triangles or cubes or linear perspective. So there is something for people to grab onto, even if they're not used to complete abstraction. So my artwork starts with building a diorama out of recycled junk, essentially. So it's cardboard, garden hoses, newspaper. So I'll arrange all these sculptures in a diorama that's 6 feet by 6 feet by 6 feet, and then photograph them and use them as a reference to make the paintings. So I start with a light source that's 3 different colors, and so that's where all the color is coming from. In real life, the sculptures are actually monochromatic, but the color comes from the lights. So it's dramatic lighting and kind of otherworldly sort of atmosphere. Creatures and spaces in other worlds or dimensions. So like imagining things that could exist somewhere far, far away. The galaxy is very vast, and I figure if it's something I can imagine in my head, maybe it's actually exists somewhere. So that's kind of where I was headed with all this stuff. So I like the color to be kind of fantastical, because it's a lot of this scenery is just kind of like out of my head and then made quickly with these rudimentary sculptures, so that I can kind of bring them to life quickly and then use them as a physical reference to make them more believable in terms of light and shadow, color, things like that, and form, to bring them more to life than just painting out of my head. So I think art encourages us to just think deeper and more critically, and I think it can be a way of bringing people together. And so like the calmness can be during the process of art for me. It's not always calm. Sometimes it's very stressful, just kind of like trying to bring a painting together or a sculpture together. But I think the calmness can come in like quiet, thoughtful moments, or repetition with process, things like that. When people look at my artwork, I want them to see something that they haven't normally seen. I want it to be like a different type of imagery than that they're used to. I want it to transport them in a way. I want it to create the same sense of wonder that we might get looking up at the sky and just seeing the vast expanse of infinite space. Just things that kind of push our minds further than we can really understand. So there's artists that do similar things that kind of piqued my interest and kind of led me in that direction, but also just through school and learning different methods and processes of work. And this method of working right now that I'm working on is best geared toward what I'm going for in terms of creating a more realistic space that's based on my imagination. I was very into perspective, linear perspective, atmospheric perspective, all those type of things. And then in this most recent body of work, I wanted to break away from that. So it's something that is not up at the Renaud gallery, but this is my most recent body of work where I'm breaking away from the jagged lines and the straight edges and things like that, and getting forms that are more like round and softer edges because I want more of a flow to the piece, and I want a sense of atmosphere and looseness. And but the straight edges and lines, they were very geared toward creating a sense of perspective and dynamic type of compositions. So I love seeing, for instance, hanging the work. I just love talking to the people that were like walking through the building, and it was great to interact with people that are interested in art, some people who aren't, and just kind of like creating conversation and just getting excited about painting, drawing, theater, whatever, you know, just sparking conversation with people that you know, I live in St. Louis City, and it's great to just talk to people in a different city and kind of get to know them, and art is kind of bringing us together, you know, so.